Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Gemini Rising. My name is Natalie Sadie, for those of you joining us for the first time. And as always, joining me is my co-host, Anne Wilkie.
Hello.
And today's guest, I am so excited to have her here. I have so many questions. Okay, I have to look at my notes so that I pronounce this correctly. She is a Usui Reiki master, and you can correct me if I've pronounced that incorrectly. She is known online as a self-care librarian, Jessica Carmody.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, Anne, you're muted.
Hello. I'm sorry. I was having an interruption. But welcome.
So did I pronounce Usui correctly?
Yeah, Usui.
Usui.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain what that is? Is it the same as Reiki as everybody talks about, or is it slightly different?
Yeah, so Reiki is such a hot topic right now. I think in the last couple of years, a lot of people are getting attuned to Reiki. It's all over social media. People just say the word Reiki a lot, but they don't really say what type of Reiki they're using or really explain it. So I do think a lot of times people are confused about what Reiki is. So, okay, Usui Reiki is from the Mikao Usui lineage. So it is believed that Mikao Usui founded Reiki, and that's why it's called Usui Reiki. Now, there are specific symbols, which are Japanese symbols, that were, created by him, and that's the basis of all Reiki. But then you start to branch off to different types of Reiki after that. So I'm an Usui Reiki master, but once I go to the master level, I do Tibetan symbols. So I would call myself an Usui Tibetan Reiki master. Now, the most popular Reiki you'll see online is Holy Fire Reiki or Karuna Reiki. So those are the same things that they do use Usui symbols, but then their master symbols may be a Holy Fire symbol or a Karuna symbol. My master symbols are Tibetan symbols. So it's all the same thing, that you are using symbols to heal people, to relax people, for good luck, all the things you use Reiki for, but you will see that maybe not everybody's doing the same type of Reiki.
Could you tell us then the philosophy behind Reiki? I mean, not the entire thing, right? But just the idea of how it works. And, what you do that I think is wonderful is you have all sorts of videos that you post on your account on TikTok and Instagram under the Self-Care Librarian, for those of you who want to go follow her. But the idea is that you do them for specific things that people might need energy for. So what I'd like to know is the philosophy behind how it works, because they are very powerful. I love these videos. And what is actually happening when you're sending Reiki?
Okay. So yeah, so Reiki is based off symbols, right? So when people say energy healing, it could be different for everyone. So some people are intuitive energy healers, so they're just going off their own intuition or spirit guides or angels. And then there are people who, do Reiki. And when you do Reiki, you're referencing the universal life force energy. So you're almost, how I describe it, is like taking this book off the shelf and opening it up, and then you start using that energy to heal the person. Now, maybe some other type of energy healing that's not Reiki, they could be using their own energy or, channeling energy from different like angels. But with Reiki, the idea is that you're tapping into this universal life force energy, which is considered Reiki energy. And you're using that energy to scan the person's body to see where there is tension. In Reiki, it's called hibiki, right? So if I had a session with someone, my hands would scan them and I would say, why does their throat feel very vibrational or feels very hot, right? Intuitively, I'm going to figure out, it feels like they have something to say. Maybe they just got into an argument with somebody and they're holding back a lot what they have to say. And then what I do is I clear that energy out for them, because I want to balance their whole body out and the energy. So it's with Reiki, you scan their body and then you use the universal life force energy to tap in to heal them, but you also use symbols. So for example, with the Usui lineage, there's something called a power boost. So if the person's fatigued, you would imagine that symbol. You can imagine the symbol over their body. You can imagine it in the air. You can imagine little tiny symbols, like say they are having weak legs. I could put the power symbol all over their legs and give them energy there. So you use these symbols that are in the Usui lineage, and you tap into them whenever you think that it could be useful in healing the person.
And these videos that you post online, I had to laugh because I have to give context to this before I reference it. Anne and I communicate a lot through voice messaging because it's a perfect way to have a conversation, but you're not interrupting anybody. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to stop your life to have the conversation. We say our bit, we tell our story. At times it's a one-woman podcast. And then when the other one has time, they listen. In doing that, there's a lot of this that happens when in the car. I am the first to admit, and I know you're an Aries as well because I saw you reference it. Yes, so I have questions about how quickly you learned and picked this up, but that's for later on in the discussion. I suffer road rage like you would not believe. I can't deal with stupidity. The other night driving home, I was messaging Anne. It was late at night. I'd finished filming a show and I was driving, we'll just say at speed down the 405, and people would pull in 20 miles below what I was doing in front of me with no awareness. And while I'm talking to Anne, she has to listen to me vent my frustration.
Me too. I do the same.
And then I apologize and then I continue because I'm not going to end the message to then have to start again. So she just gets everything that comes with it. So one of the videos she sends me the other day, she goes, I think this one's for you. I think Jessica picked up on your energy and the fact that we're about to do this show, and you were doing one for road rage. Now I haven't played it before I've gotten in the car yet, but I need to. But I love that you do these things because for me, it was so far up my alley. I was like, this is great. But I never understood that Reiki could be used for things like this. And you've talked about it in other podcasts that when people are flying, you mentioned with your sister, she got to the airport late and you sent some Reiki so that she would make her flight. And not only did she make her flight, there was an hour delay and they ended up letting another person onto the flight, which is incredible. So how does that work? And why is this not a part of Reiki that we hear more about?
So first, I love you're an Aries. I love my fellow Aries because we're, unique.
Yes.
We're very unique. Like the road rage, I never met an Aries that doesn't have road rage.
Yes.
Once we get in that car, like I always say, the self-care librarian is very calm online. You do not want to be in the car with me because I'm not the same person.
So true.
Whatever gentle Reiki I'm giving, that's not who I am in the car. So what I like to do is, and this kind of like plays into what you just asked, is when I learned Reiki, I asked my teacher, like, what could I do with this? Like, and she said, anything you want, right? As long as you're following these guidelines, which the guidelines are, this is for the best good for all. You're not using Reiki in a negative way. You're not using Reiki to hurt somebody, right? You're doing positive intention to whatever you send. And you can use whatever symbols you want for those intentions. So for me, I started to think like, how can I do Reiki for others that are going to help people? And I came up with very practical things, which is like anybody can have road rage any day. So why don't I try to make their life a little easier and make a video and see if the video helps them? Someone has a headache and I make a video and see if it helps them. So the videos are usually like 1 minute and they're meant to be that way for the person to just get the intention for that particular thing. And the reason why I make them that way is, say one day you have a sore throat and you're like, oh, I tried honey, I tried this, nothing's working. If you go to my page and scroll down, you're going to find a video that's going to be for you there. So it could be like a tool, like a reference tool, like, I'm not feeling well today. Oh, does Jess have something for an earache? Let me go see. watch this video and see if the intention come through to me, right? So I do think like these small videos that are 1 minute are very helpful to people. And I want it to be the most practical, grounded way possible. Now, I think, and this is kind of funny, is I do think that when people do Reiki, they're not thinking of it as a practical way. They want it to be like, okay, this is funny. Like if someone comes to a Reiki session with me, they may not be impressed because I'm not telling them some huge message about their life. The floor's not shaking or their body's not shaking, right? This is me helping them through positive energy and intention. So Reiki is so gentle, but it's powerful. But not everybody understands that aspect. So a lot of times when you see online, I do think there's a little bit of a performance with Reiki because we want it to appear a certain way, right? And my thought is I want it to appear as grounded as possible. And the reason I did that is a lot of people who follow me or a lot of people who've had sessions with me, these are very grounded people who may have a corporate job, who've not even spiritual, they've never heard of Reiki. My goal is to get Reiki out there to more people who are maybe not in the spiritual community. And for me to do that, it does have to appear to be in a grounded way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is what I love about your videos is they do feel very grounded and very calming. And I love them. I mean, I've sent them to people. I've sent I can't remember what it was. I think it was an earache, right? My mom was complaining about this earache that she had and she'd been to the doctor, so I sent her your video and she loved it. I saw she's subscribed to you or followed you right away. So my question is this, that because I think Natalie and I both really appreciate that grounded, practical approach to spirituality. And that's part of why we're doing this show also, is to show the ways spirituality can be effective in your everyday lives.
I love that.
So do you find that, is this something, because we know you have an alternative identity as a corporate person. Do you ever bring it into sort of, can you bring it into the environment where you work?
Yeah, so I have a corporate job. I've had a corporate job for many years. I'm 42 now. I started my corporate job in my early 20s. I've been doing Reiki since 2021. So Reiki is newer to my life than that corporate job is. So I definitely had this like corporate persona. And when I got attuned to Reiki, it was a little bit of an identity crisis for me because it was like, do I want to go this woo-woo path or do I want to stay this corporate path? And then I was trying to integrate them into each other. And how I do it is really tense situations. If I'm in a work meeting and I could feel someone feels nervous and they're presenting, I'll just, sprinkle a little Reiki into the situation. I'm not telling them I'm doing it, but I'm just sprinkling it into the room, like things like that. So I definitely use it in a corporate setting when it comes to relaxing the energy in a room. And people who have sessions with me, a lot of them do have corporate jobs, and how we kind of use it for that is for them to get promotions. So to send energy for them to have a promotion, or sometimes maybe that's not the job for them anymore. So I'm sending energy for them to be promoted, but that could also mean that they leave this current job and go somewhere else.
Can I ask a follow-up, Natalie? Let me jump in and interrupt. I know that, so in my job at a university, which I'm currently in the process of leaving, actually, and we can come back to that later, but one of the things that I've just recently started to see is that they talk about mindfulness with students, right? And there are some movements that I found so interesting in other places where people are starting meditation groups, or just consciously bringing mindfulness into the student experience. And I think it's such a wonderful idea. I'm just wondering, have you ever thought of doing workshops or anything in a corporate setting or for the corporate environment?
I thought about it because I think Reiki's really used more in a medical setting now. So like I went to the vet today with my dog and they were like, oh, bring us to the back room. And there was a room that said massage and Reiki. you know? So like at the vet, right? I had a gynecologist appointment and it said, "Oh, do you want to sign up for Reiki too?" And I started laughing. I'm like, they're doing Reiki at the gynecologist now. You know? So I do feel
Good
like
place.
Reiki is getting really integrated into more like medical settings, but people aren't really thinking about it more on like a corporate level or outside of medical stuff. I thought about it. I think it would be a good idea because I had a corporate job for so many years. I still do. And like that's already a skill set I have. So why wouldn't I introduce it to people? I definitely think people are still hesitant to believe Reiki works, though. So I don't know if everybody would be open to it. I think people in the spiritual community believe Reiki, but some people don't believe in it at all. They don't think that it works.
Mhm.
Do the people that you work with know that you have this whole other life, or is it just the two worlds do not merge at this point?
They don't merge at all. Like the current job I'm at now, I work in advertising. So I work like the technical side of advertising. I've been at this job for 8 years and I don't even talk about it. I just go do my job and that's it. Like this, it's almost like this hidden persona, the self-care librarian is not integrated fully into everything yet. And I'm also a Cancer rising and a Cancer moon. So there is a little bit about me that's a private person, but you wouldn't believe that if you see my Instagram account because I tell everybody everything. But there is a side of me that's a little private, and I think that private side is still the corporate.
Mhm.
So I have to ask, has it crossed your mind, or is it a thought moving forward that you would, give up the corporate life to step into being this Reiki master fully and completely and letting that sort of take over your life in a sense? I know it wouldn't be your entire identity, but
Yeah.
in terms of work, it's a lot of our life that is spent doing that every day.
Yeah, and it's definitely the balance, right? Because when I'm busy with work, then Reiki takes the back seat, right? So it's trying to find the balance with that. I've thought about it. I've thought about it like from a financial perspective, is some people charge, right now, a lot of people charge like $175 an hour for Reiki. Mine is 77, and sometimes I charge $30. And the reason for that is I have so many people who are devoted followers that are in my DMs that don't have the money to pay for things. They will say, like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Can you just send me Reiki for good luck?" I mean, I talk to them every day, some of these people. I mean, yeah, no problem. Right. So there is this middle ground with me that I want to keep it affordable because I know there are people that need it and they do need it for a certain price. And then there is that need, like for me to leave corporate, and I would have to raise my prices. I feel like I'm not fully aligned yet to do it full time. Um, and I am someone who really thinks like your container needs to be ready for that. And a couple of years ago, when I started Reiki, I got on TikTok and I just made a Reiki video and it went viral. And all these people were in my lives, and I had like 3,000 people on the lives a night. And I just started doing Reiki, and I was like, oh my God, like, and then people were reaching out to me, can we have sessions? Can you teach me? But I wasn't ready. And I do think that I needed these next couple of years to not have everybody in these lives anymore, to not have all these people reaching out for me, to fully integrate Reiki into my life, to have my container ready to hold space for everybody still. So I definitely think it's a wave. It's been up and down. And I feel like right now my container's kind of figuring out if I'm ready to take that on full time.
Just before you ask a question, Anne, sorry, because I wanted to follow on. We started touching on this before we went live, and I just think it's the perfect moment to ask this question. There is a debate within the spiritual community about what people charge. There are people that understand that people that are very in demand charge much higher prices than other people. And there are some people that are very offended by these people charging these prices. With that being said, a lot of these people that are charging on the higher end of the scale have massive wait times. Our last show that we did with Galliana Aiken, she has a wait list of, she does soul contract readings. She has a wait list of over 5,500 people.
Mhm.
And when I booked with her a few years ago, her prices were probably half of what she's charging now. And I still don't think she's that expensive, but she was charging half the price that she was, and the wait time was a couple of months. Now it's essentially a lottery system because there's no way that she can get to all these people. And so for me, I look at it and go, if you're that in demand, you have a right to charge what you're charging, and you'll see a certain group of people within society, and then the people that can't afford it will find another practitioner. And also, to me, that's part of how the universe works. You end up where you're meant to with the people that you're meant to, and you get the lessons or the messages or the healing that you're meant to. But I know that it's a very touchy subject, so I'm curious as to your thoughts on that.
I think because I'm working with energy with Reiki, I think about energy all day. I think about energy between like I'm in an apartment, the person next to me's energy, you know, if you're in a car, someone's energy next to you. So my whole life thinks about energy. And I do think that you have to charge what you think your energy is worth at that time, right? So if you think your energy is worth $300 for that hour because that's the energy you're going to exert to do it, then I think that it's right to charge that. So I really do think it's depending on the person, is what do you feel you're exerting energy wise, and how much value and price is that for you? So I do think it could be different for everyone. The only thing I'm against is if people do it in a manipulative way. You know, like sometimes there could be like coaching programs that the person obviously doesn't have the money, and the coach is like, well, just open a new credit card and give me $10,000. That type of behavior, no, I don't agree with. But to say someone's like, a lot of astrologers, right? They'll charge like $500 per session. If you're going into that willingly, that you want to use that $500 for your session, that's fine, as long as the prices are upfront and they know what they're paying.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears back to when you first started doing the videos, because, and I'm thinking, I'm sure this will connect in some way to the idea of energy exchange, but I'm wondering when it was that you started doing those videos, and the fact that you right away had 3,000 people watching tells me a few things. One is that probably no one else was really offering Reiki in the way that you were, but I feel like in the past few years, we've really been through this weird blip where people really needed something like that. So I'm wondering what you think about it.
Yeah, and you're right. When I started doing Reiki online, it was the end of 2021, so like the winter of 2021. And I was getting a lot of people in my lives and a lot of followers at the time because there weren't a lot of people who were doing Reiki like I was doing on social media. There are a lot of people were doing Reiki in person. So like in crystal stores or like massage places, but there wasn't a lot of online Reiki. But the last, I would say, 2 years, Reiki's kind of exploded online. So I just think there's more Reiki creators to watch. Again, I balance my Reiki with my corporate job, so I'm not doing it as much as some other people who are doing it full time. So I think my, my investment in social media has gone down a little compared to maybe some other Reiki people. And I think that that's probably the difference is like, it really, you have to be consistent. Post consistently, go live consistently. That's what people want. I used to go live a couple times a week. I still have people who comment on every single video. But when are you going live again? And I barely go live anymore because I need to find the time. So I think it's really about, I think there's a lot of Reiki creators right now.
Well, I think there's a lot of creators out there who are offering their services for free on YouTube, especially, right? Or TikTok, anywhere. And from knowing people who do that, I can see the ways that that becomes extremely draining for people if it becomes about that, if this is where the energy exchange can go out of balance, because it could be the people saying, when are you going live again? When are you going live again? And that's wonderful that they resonate with your work. But I think it takes a really strong person to be able to say, I don't have the energy inside to do this right now, right? Like you're having to balance your job and doing this. But the people who do it full time, I've seen a lot of pressure on them as well to just continue to offer, even if physically they're not feeling up to it.
And I've said this on my stories before for Instagram, so like people who want the lives understand. I said I never want to turn Reiki into an obligation for me and for me not to like it anymore because I feel obligated to go live, 2 times a week to satisfy followers, because then I'm doing Reiki for the wrong reasons. I'm not doing it from my heart anymore. And that's how I intended when I started. So, I definitely have boundaries with it. I want to do more of the lives I used to do, but I didn't feel like I was in the right space right now to do it. Now I do consistently post the videos that are 1 minute long for people because I take the reference from my own life. When I did that road rage video, it was because I had road rage that day. So I want to do whatever is in my life because I know it's helping someone. Yesterday I had a headache, so I made a headache video. So that's like my inspiration for the short videos is whatever is going on in my life, I will try to put a video out there and then someone will comment, I needed this right now. How did you read my mind? Because, we're all connected energetically. And I know if I have road rage, there's 10 people that video needs to reach that they have road rage that day.
Mm-hmm.
I think the support that creators get online is amazing because without them, so many people wouldn't have the careers that they have. I mean, TikTok and Instagram has launched so many people, but there are people that do push it too far. And I don't do Reiki, but I do oracle card readings, and they're essentially channeled readings. All the cards do for me really are act as a guide for whatever messages need to come out. And so the moment I start pulling those cards, I start talking. I never have any idea what I say at the end of it, but I have to be in a particular energy space. So the readings happen every Monday, and then I try and post the monthly before the start of the next month. But the reality is there are days where Anne always helps me with all of this, getting it all live and what have you. And there are days where I message her and go, I actually can't do it today. I physically do not have it in me. I could show up and I can give a reading, but is it going to be my best reading? And is it going to be what the people that are tuning in deserve? No, I'd rather deliver it a day late and have the reading be the best that I can give and for me to be in the right space. So it's so, and there's a couple of creators that I follow that I love, not in the spiritual world at all, but the followers become demanding and they forget that people have other jobs, they have other things going on, and that they can't just show up for you every time you want. I mean, even TV shows have seasons, and then when we get to the end of the season, it stops and we have several months break, and that's the act off and the writers and everybody on production, and then they come back and they give you your show. They forget that creators online, they expect something every single day or live several times a week without thinking this is a human that's getting no breaks at all, which is so much energetically. And then when your work that you're doing is energetic on top of it, I can't imagine how drained you would feel at the end of all of that.
Yeah, and something I do on my Instagram is on my stories, I share a lot about my life that is not spiritual, like not Reiki related. And so many people resonate with those things. I'll say like, "Oh, I was having a problem with this today or that." And people are like, "Oh my God, yeah, me too. Thanks for sharing," because it makes them understand that these people behind the screens are just regular humans too, right? These people, and I don't have a ton of followers, but I can't even imagine people who have like 1 million followers, the pressure that they have, right? These people are humans behind their content. And, I do think having relatable content, like I do like to talk about everything that's going on in my life on my stories, because I do think that builds a relationship with the people that follow you, that maybe I didn't do a Reiki live for 2 months, but you can see on my stories, I've been going through it. I've been crashing out a little bit on the stories, so I think it's really about being honest too, about where you are in your life. And I know there are some creators that are very private, so they don't like to talk about their personal life, but for me, I don't mind.
Right.
So I was going to ask, your Reiki journey didn't really start till 2020. And again, I'm referencing the podcast you did with your sister Jen was so great. And I think it's always nice when people that know each other have a conversation like that, because you really get a sense of not only who both of you are, but the relationship that you share. But you talked about in that podcast what had been going on for you around that time, the fact that, and this will always be crazy to me, that doctors patients, because in the middle of a pandemic, that's when we need doctors most, and they're just all shutting up shop and saying absolutely not, we're protecting. Is crazy to me. But you had needs that weren't being met by the doctors, so you switched to this route. And as I was watching it, I'm thinking, if that's not the universe pushing you to exactly where you need to be, I don't know what is. But was it a big leap for you to sort of turn to Reiki? Was it a last resort, or was it something you'd sort of been thinking about and this was the final push? And how quickly did you take to it and go, this is what I have to learn?
So I've always been someone that's like, I'm very grounded. So I see both sides of things. So I do see the need when people do need medication that is not spiritual and they need to see a doctor. I still take medication if I need it. But sometimes people are so resistant to the more of the holistic healing, and it is something that can help them. So for me, prior to doing Reiki, I did a lot of acupuncture. So I was already looking into alternative healing that wasn't medical healing. And acupuncture helped I have a fibromyalgia, so I have chronic pain and chronic fatigue. And the acupuncture helped manage that. So I was already into the holistic side as well as going to doctors. And before that, I've been collecting crystals for over 10 years now. So I was already into energies anyway, but I wasn't into Reiki because really I had heard of energy healing, but I hadn't heard of Reiki at that time. So for me, because I had chronic pain and chronic fatigue, I was going to acupuncture, I was going to the chiropractor every week, and all it did was manage the symptoms, but it doesn't cure you of anything, right? It just helps you manage the pain that you have. And I was seeking out alternatives. So at the time when this was the beginning of the pandemic, I also have anxiety and depression. I was on an anti-anxiety medication, but the doctor couldn't see me to give me my refill because all the doctors were closed, and they didn't have telehealth set up yet those first couple of weeks. So the medication I was on had to be an in-person prescription, and then it was controlled substance. So I couldn't just get my medication. And I was by myself in my apartment thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna have panic attacks. And I thought, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come out of this pandemic better than I went into it. That was what I had control of. I couldn't control the outside world. So I started doing online energy healing. So there were people that I had hired, and we would do Zoom sessions. And I did I think it was like 6 sessions with this one energy healer, but she was an intuitive energy healer. So it wasn't Reiki. And she helped me a lot with my shadow work. And I think that it was very valuable for that. But I was still having a lot of physical pain in my body, and I didn't feel that that was getting healed from the intuitive energy work. So my sister, anybody who knows Jen, JK Ultra, that is my real sister. She's younger than me. I'm 5 years older. So she said, I know someone in California that does Reiki, but let's see if they can do a phone session with you. Because my sister lives in California. I live in New Jersey. This guy, he's been doing Reiki forever. I think he may be in his 60s or 70s, and he's been practicing forever, but he never did online Reiki. But he was trying to do it because of the pandemic, because people weren't coming into his, business. And he's instantly told 15 minutes. He said, yeah, you have the reason why your uterus hurts. That's what was the problem I had at the time. He said there's a lot of past trauma. I cleared some of that out, and instantly it went away, the pain.
Mhm.
And that was the missing piece for me. Acupuncture could help, intuitive energy healing could help, but Reiki was really going to help the body. And we store so much trauma in our bodies that we need to get that out. And that was how I really got into the Reiki from there. Was I know that Reiki can physically help people remove some of this stagnant energy in their body, which can lead to them having less pain. And that was really how it helped me. Was That's where how I opened my eyes to Reiki.
Hmm. So a lot of people then, you find something that really works for you, helps alleviate your pain and your symptoms, but you went the extra step. You were such a convert that you decided to study it. And I'm wondering how you kind of made that leap. And then also, I know in that same podcast, I remember you talking about when you became attuned with Reiki, that affected your life in ways you didn't expect either. So would you be able to talk about how you made the leap to it, and then how it affected your life when you did decide to study Reiki?
Yeah, so we're all connected in certain ways. Like we can meet somebody and they could be in our lives for a few months, but they had to be there for a certain reason. So at the time after this guy's name was Moses, who did this online Reiki with me and healed this uterus issue I had. After that, my sister Jen at the time was in a relationship with someone, and he had just learned Reiki. And he was practicing Reiki. So he would call me on the phone and send me Reiki. And he did it in a different way, which was very relaxing. Instead of targeting certain parts of the body, he just like blasted you with the Reiki energy, and I would fall asleep. So then I started to see different ways that people did Reiki. And I was thinking, instead of me paying for these sessions, why don't I just learn it? And then I can if I have pain, I just remove my own pain. So I talked to my sister Jen and I was like, I'm thinking about getting attuned to Reiki, but I'm looking around. I don't know who I should trust to teach me. And she goes, oh, just use the same person that her boyfriend used. But I go, oh, but that person's in California. She's like, no, they do online Reiki. So I didn't even know that was possible. I thought you had to learn Reiki in person. So I took a class, several classes with her, and we did it through Zoom, but we did it as a group. So there was about maybe like 6 of us, and it was a whole day each time we had the class, and we exchanged Reiki and learned from each other. And after that, my teacher said, why, to everybody on the call, why are you guys learning Reiki? And I said, oh, to help my pain management and my anxiety and my depression. And she says, don't limit yourself to just you, because the world needs more light workers. And this is what you're here to help with. So it doesn't mean you have to have a business. It doesn't mean that you have to open a crystal store and offer Reiki massages, right? You do whatever you want with it. And it's a bridge for you for your next steps in life. And I thought about it and I'm like, okay, let me just open a TikTok account and start doing Reiki. And some people made fun of me because I do like different hand symbols. And I got a lot of hate when I began because, again, this was late 2021. There wasn't a lot of Reiki creators at that point doing this. And people would be like, yeah, right. Selling your snake oil. You're a scammer. You're this. And I wasn't even charging anybody. So I wasn't scamming anybody. I didn't even charge anybody. But there was this a lot of hate towards it. Initially from other people, but I said, even if I do look stupid doing these hand symbols, even if I look goofy or silly, I know that this is my calling and I'm going to keep doing it. And that's kind of how I started doing it for other people. And then there were people who reached out and they said, oh, can I have a private session? And I said, okay, yeah, so I kind of fell into it. It was really my own healing that I was trying to do. But then other people said, okay, well, I want this too.
It's very interesting to me that Reiki kind of found you rather than you finding Reiki. And you've said before that once you started learning, you became a Reiki master within 6 months because that Aries energy, you were going. And it's true. We become hyperfixated, hyper-focused, and we're just like, this is what I'm doing. I know this is where I'm meant to be, and we go. But And I brought this up in the episode we did with Galliana because she had a similar experience that she was looking for something and she came across these soul path readings and things just resonated. And we've had astrologers on in the past, Brian being one of them. He fell asleep and woke up and there was an astrology video and he was like, this talks to me or speaks to me. And I do think that when there's a calling, the universe puts this in front of you and just says, this is it. And I'm going to make an assumption, and I want you to tell me whether it's correct or not, that when you started, everything just made perfect sense. You know how, whereas if someone's trying to learn something that's not their forte or it's being, it can be difficult because we're reading things and it doesn't make sense or it's dry or whatever it is and it doesn't resonate. But it seems to be when people, especially in the spiritual world, come across their calling or it finds them, everything clicks instantly, and it's quite a quick journey to get to this point where, and one of your TikToks went viral with something like, was it 30,000 views overnight?
Yeah, I think the video was like 500,000 views, and it was how to find your husband, I think it was. Reiki to find your husband.
Funny.
But yeah, I think for me, what made sense when I learned Reiki was why I had difficult times in life. Prior to Reiki, I felt a little bit of a victim. I'm a Cancer moon, so I can have a little victim mentality in me, you know, and I felt a victim of life. Why did these things happen to me? Why do I have so many health problems? Why do I have so many mental health issues with anxiety and depression? Why can't I get out of this myself? You know, why can't, you know, I had a difficult divorce at one point in my life, and I felt a victim of that divorce. So when I got into Reiki, I said, this is why these things have happened to me, because I can relate to people. This is how I'm making these videos. You know, if I say Reiki for a breakup, people are going through divorce right now. I understand on a level how they feel when they're going through this, you know, or when I say Reiki for anxiety, I understand what a panic attack is because I've had them. So I think that that's how it clicked for me was, wow, I've had some struggles in life because I was meant to understand struggle so I can help people through theirs. So I definitely think that that's when everything clicked for me was I understand that I'm here to hold space for people on a deep level. And they trust me because they see my videos and they trust that Reiki energy. So I definitely think that that's how it clicked was, okay, this is a bigger purpose. This is more than me just saying I'm making Reiki for a headache video. This is me. There are people who they're scrolling through their social media and they feel like they're at the end of the rope. And this video made them feel better that day. And maybe that encouraged them to help themselves as well, or maybe go to a healer, right? Do something that they weren't willing to do before.
Mm-hmm. All right. So then what do you think made you open to something like Reiki? You seem like a very practical person otherwise.
I am practical. That was something I talked about with my sister on her podcast. I'm overly practical. Like I'm not dreamy. This is a little bit of an Aries. Aries can be a little practical, like what comes next. And it's like very, you know, controlled in a way. I could be very controlled, you know. And I think I was open to Reiki because I saw how it helped me. If when I did Reiki with that guy Moses, if he didn't help heal this uterus pain, I wouldn't even believe that Reiki was real.
Mm-hmm.
But after that call with him, and then instantly the pain is gone, how can that happen? That doesn't make any sense unless Reiki works.
Mm-hmm.
So once I experience, and I always say people, sometimes people will email me and they say, oh, can you teach me Reiki? I want to be attuned to Reiki. I said, I will, but I need you to do a couple of Reiki sessions first, either with me or whoever you want. It doesn't have to be me, but you need to experience what Reiki does for you before you go and become a teacher. And for me, because I had Reiki done on me and it healed certain areas of my body, I was like, okay, this has to be real. This can't be fake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's me too. I had I had a really bad neck and back injury, and for a long time I was dealing with just so frustrated at a certain point. You know, you get to that point where, especially if you're dealing with chronic pain, it becomes something that's always there. And I remember I tried acupuncture, and it was sort of like the last ditch thing of, okay, physical therapy all the time, doing these little exercises all the time is not helping. So I'll just go in and do this. So it was the same for me with acupuncture, except for I didn't jump in and go learn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought, how in the world can this actually work? So for me, it's always, I have to experience it to believe it as well. And I don't
Yeah.
know if that's I'm a Libra, so we're all cardinal. We have all this cardinal energy here. So maybe that's it. We'll believe it when we see it, people, or feel it.
Yeah, I feel like with Aries, like for me, I become hyper focused on things, and I became hyper focused on Reiki. So I went from not learning Reiki, like not knowing anything about Reiki, to becoming a Reiki master in 6 months, which some people do like Reiki 1 and then they'll go 2 or 3 years without even getting to the second level because it's not a priority, you know, in their lives at the time. For me, I became a little obsessed with it, and I was like, I got to learn everything I can learn in the shortest period of time, and then I'm going to jump in and help people, you know? So it was a little bit like I went really hard with the Reiki. But something, Anne, that you asked before was like, how did it like change my life? Something that's not talked about a lot is this 21-day detox when people are attuned to Reiki. So a lot of people don't know this. When you get an attunement, and you get an attunement every time, so Reiki 1, 2, and the master level, you always get this new attunement when you're getting attuned to signs, the symbols of the Reiki. You go through a 21-day detox. And in that 21-day detox, you can be depressed. You can feel sad. Things could disappear from your life. Say you're in a relationship that you're not supposed to be in, that relationship may end in those 21 days. So for me, after I learned Reiki, I got scared after. I was like, oh shit, this 21 days, like, oh, I made a mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have been attuned, because that initial integration of Reiki into your life is difficult. You're going through shadow work. You are experiencing, you know, both realms, this spiritual and this practical. So eventually it calms down and everything integrates in. But those first couple of months when you're learning Reiki and getting attuned, it's very hard to integrate that energy into your body, into your everyday life.
So, as someone who is very practical, you said when you first started having Reiki performed on you, it was shadow work that you were working on. How was that for you as someone who's very practical? Because we talk about shadow work, I think, in almost every episode, because I'm a big one for the shadow work never really ends. I feel like it goes through stages. It's almost like a wave. You get the highs and then the lows, where you don't have to do as much work, but then another issue comes up, because every time you dig, you're hitting big issues, and then once you get over that hump, you kind of get a little bit of a break. But then because you've unearthed something, then you find there's something else buried further down. How did someone who's so practical and grounded find that, especially if that's where you were starting versus the healing on the uterine pain?
You know, so prior to learning Reiki, I had done therapy for many years. So I had done therapy for like 10 years before that, like traditional talk therapy. I also did EMDR therapy, which that's specifically for like PTSD or trauma. So I was open to, you know, mental health issues, like that I may had had some, because I had anxiety, depression, and panic attacks. So I knew that there were some underlying issues. But when you have those things like anxiety and panic attacks, your everyday life is very difficult because they hit you out of nowhere. You can get in a car and now you're having a panic attack and you don't know why that's happening. So for me, I was like, there has to be something that could help this. I can't have these unexpected situations out of nowhere. So that's when I started to hope that Reiki could help me. And my sister, Jen, she says now who I was prior to the Reiki is a complete different person. Because now, yes, I can still be very emotional, but I work through my emotions. And that's what the shadow work helped me with. Before I would suppress my emotions, they got stuck in the body, and it caused so much anxiety for me because I refused to face why these emotions were coming up. But then after the Reiki, now I'll cry, I'll work through emotions. I have more self-reflection, like, what part did I play in this? And then that kind of integrated in. I definitely think what you were saying is like there's different parts of shadow work. So the shadow work I did in 2020, which led to the Reiki, was emotional shadow work. Things from when I was a kid, things from my parents, when my parents got divorced, all those things came up, and I was able to forgive family members that maybe I had a grudge towards. And a lot of times people are like, okay, I'm getting rid of all these family members from my life. You can hold boundaries and still keep people in if you want, if you don't have to. But for me, I got healed from a lot of the childhood stuff. And right now, the last couple of months, I think I'm going through another shadow work phase. And that is my physical body now. So to me, it was kind of split. I did a lot of the emotional, mental shadow work. And now I've been on this weight loss journey and understanding why I've been holding on to so much weight for so long. And that's really been, I talked to my sister about it. It's a protection for me to hold on to the weight. And now that actually to me is a harder journey than the emotional, the physical shadow work journey I'm going through now. So I do think it comes in waves. I think you're presented with what you can handle at the time. And in 2020, I could handle the emotional shadow work. I couldn't handle the physical body. And now I think I'm at that point that I can handle that. So yeah, I feel like I'm in my second phase of shadow work now.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting because I was listening to Christopher Maher, did I say it correctly, Natalie? Earlier today because he was presenting on the faith and anxiety conference, right? Where you could sign in and get the free videos for a day. So I recommend that. I'm recommending it. I don't even remember the name of the link people could go to, but he was talking about this idea that there are these 13 layers of consciousness, and that when you're starting to heal something, you want to start at that God level, and it comes back to the physical. So it's almost like that's what you just described, that you did that. The emotional work would be kind of in the astral realms. And it could also be connected to things like past lives or soul contracts or whatever it is. And then it hits you, and there's another layer to work through again. It's ongoing. It's forever.
It is. And you know what? We do experience new traumas over our life, and then you have new healing and shadow work for those. I do think it's a little bit of a misconception online with like what you see, that like you do shadow work once. That's it. You did your shadow work and you're initiated into, now you're healed, but that's not reality.
I am forever, when I'm doing the oracle card readings, there are weeks where it just keeps coming up that we have to dig and dig and dig. And I go, listen, because I've had people call me, friends of mine that are heavily invested in the spiritual world. They may not be a light worker in terms of working to heal others, but they're a light worker in terms of they're on the path, they're awake, they're doing the work for themselves and leveling up for themselves personally. And that obviously affects everybody around them. But they'll say to me, I've done my shadow work, and I just giggle and go, it's not done. And they're like, what do you mean? I did this and I did that. I'm like, yeah, but there's more. There's always more. And it doesn't all necessarily need to be traumatic, but we need to look at what's going on and why it's happening. And weight is one. Often beards with people is like, with men, I should say, is another thing. This is why when you see people that have these huge transformations, they'll lose weight, shave their beard off, cut their hair, and do all these things. It's because the things that they were using to protect and cloak themselves are no longer needed as shields.
It's interesting that you say that, because I've been okay, so I've been on this weight loss journey since January. When I started losing weight, I was in tears because of the weight. Well, I wanted to be protected and I didn't know that. And now the last couple of weeks, I started losing my hair, because when you do lose I've lost 40 pounds since January. When you lose a lot of weight, you do start to lose your hair, right? And that is so interesting that you said that, because there is this mask that's being removed, right? Your hair is such a powerful symbol for women. And when I brush my hair and some comes out and I'm like, oh my God, like there is this another layer that's coming up. And like I've said, since January, I'm dealing with the physical shadow work. And I do find that more difficult than the emotional side.
I just have to jump in before I allow you to ask a question, and I'm so sorry. So with the physical, I'm just going to share a personal experience of myself. I had a dog that I adored, and when I was working on Highvibe, people would see him appear on the show with me. His name was Bumble, and I loved this dog. He and I were each other's ride or die. There was nobody else sort of in our life, and we were just navigating this world together. He collapsed one morning after I got home from the studio, and he ended up passing away. It was like 5 hours from start to finish. And I was so traumatized, not only by how it happened, but I wasn't ready for him to go. He was only 6.5 years old. There was no build up to what was happening. And I was struggling to function and exist in the world. I was in such a deep state of grief. I then became so sick. And then as I started to pull myself together, I was looking at photos going, my hair looks terrible. And I couldn't figure it out. And I did this big road trip with my dad. And again, I would be drying my hair and think, that's a lot of hair, even for me as someone who sheds a lot. And in the final 2 weeks of that part of my journey, it was as if I had undergone chemotherapy. I would touch my hair and chunks would come out. And I thought, I have obviously developed alopecia, or I'm bald, or whatever is happening is happening. And I ended up going into a salon and I cut all my hair off. I cut it to above my shoulder. And there are photos, and it's funny, I sent the photos out after I'd pulled myself together, and everyone's going, you look so sad. And I'm like, this is me good compared to where I was while this woman was cutting my hair. And she was so lovely as we went through this process, because she understood what was happening. There's a couple of things that helped me. I can send you the recipe for it when we're done with the show. I make a mixture of castor oil and rosemary oil, and I oil my head a couple of times a week, and that helps regenerate hair growth. The castor oil helps it sort of get deep into the scalp. That helped considerably in just the life of the hair. The other thing is, when we go through these cycles, they're often 3 to 6 month cycles where our body shuts down, and that happens. The other thing that I've learned, because after I lost him, I gained weight. And again, I think it was grief. I think it was protection for me. And I've recently learned, and I don't know if you know your human design, but if you have someone that can run your chart, I've got to figure out which app it is, but when your chart is run, they see what your digestion is. And it's we either have passive or active digestion. And if we're passive, we're meant to fast and only eat when we're hungry. If we have active digestion, we're meant to eat on a fixed schedule. I was always fasting because I would just wait until I was hungry and feed myself. I have active digestion. I'm meant to eat constantly and consistently. So now I never get hungry. I'm not hungry when I wake up, but I force myself to eat. The irony is I'm eating more but less, if that makes sense. So my portions are smaller because I'm not gorging because I'm starving, and I'm losing weight even when I'm not working out. So there's a few things there that may help or assist you through this journey. But as someone who's been through it, I understand how difficult it is.
Yeah. And when I started the weight loss journey, I was excited, but now I'm like, okay, now I'm losing the hair. When I was eating like 3,000 calories a day, I had beautiful hair. And now I'm eating more, controlled, and I'm not eating whatever I want. And now my hair starts falling out. But I am trying to be positive in a way. Is I understand that this is a cycle that I'm currently in, and I am shedding a lot. I got this Moldavite recently, And I collect crystals, but I didn't get Moldavite on purpose because I wasn't ready for it, because Moldavite can transform you and put you in uncomfortable situations for you to change. And now I do feel like my life's changing a little bit, and I'm not really sure what the next steps are, but I am shedding a lot, and I'm shedding hair, but I do think it's, symbolic to where I'm at in life too.
Well, let me just say, like I said, I cut my hair to here, and when I cut it, when I would wake up in the morning, I essentially had a mullet. There was almost no hair on the sides of my head. I had a bit on the back, and it was so bad. It was so bad. And then when I cut it off because I hated it, I wouldn't go out in public without either a ponytail extension in or extensions hooked into my head. And it's all grown back. So it is just a cycle. It will come back. So you just ride the wave. It sucks to go through, but at the same time, what you learn through the journey of going through it.
Yeah, I made a video. Once my hair started falling out, I made a video for like Reiki to stimulate hair growth. And all these people commented, "Oh my God, I'm losing my hair. Thank you for this video." And again, I was like, okay, I'm meant to experience some things so I can give Reiki to people who also are experiencing them.
Yeah, but I guess you wish that it wasn't
I wish
always
it was easier.
something, right?
Exactly. I do feel like it's always something. I'm like, here we go. I'm going to experience something, but okay, I guess I'll make a Reiki video about it.
Well, as a Cancer rising with a Cancer moon, you've had Pluto that opposed your rising and moon all that time. So I'm sure it was transformative. But this is what's interesting too, is that we also, Natalie and I, would have had Pluto squaring our suns. So yeah, we've all been through it. And those Leos and Aquarians and fixed signs, they're getting to experience it now too. So,
yeah.
Is she through the opposition now?
Yeah, I don't know what degrees your moon and rising are, but yeah.
Yeah. I think what degrees do I have? I think I have it. Let me see here. Oh, my moon is 5 degrees Cancer.
Oh, good. So that was a while ago.
Okay, good. My rising, 26 degrees.
So that was more recent. Yeah. My sun is 26 degrees of Libra. So yeah, I was getting the square from Pluto while it was opposing your rising. Such fun times.
Well, all the astrologers are saying that Cancer risings are going to have a good June and onward, that it's looking up for us Cancer risings.
Yeah, we'll be sure also to ask Alex, because we'll have an astrologer on next week.
Tuesday. Yes.
But I know also Evan Nathaniel Grimm, who we've had on, and I know you at least were on a conference with him.
Yeah.
Your sister did a virtual conference that I had watched. Actually, that's how I first found you, was from that. But I know he's a Cancer rising as well. So I'm sure he's a good one to watch for that.
Yeah, Evan's really good. I end up meeting people through my sister Jen, because Jen, she's a Leo, she's extroverted, she knows everyone. Jen has thousands of friends. I'm more introverted than she is, but she's friends with everyone.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's just I mean, she really is. She does so much content, and she's such a warm person too, and always helping people. She's always promoting other people.
Oh yeah.
And sharing her spotlight. She's really
My
great.
question is, how does she have time to do the research she does and still have all these friends? Because each thing on its own is time consuming when you have a lot of friends. I know I lose entire days on the phone with people because I've got to speak to this one because it's their birthday. I've got to speak to this one because I haven't spoken to them in a week, and all these things. And you're juggling all of these people. And then the depth of research that she does, I just sit there and go, oh my gosh, I've read one of those books, or I've read 2 of them, but she's not only read them, she's gone back and she's pulled excerpts and she's made the videos.
I think she has a unique way that her brain processes information, because she hasn't studied Reiki. I will tell her stuff, and then she can talk about it like she read the book. So it's very interesting. Like whenever she hears things or reads things, it's almost imprinted in her brain and she doesn't forget it. So she has a very good memory. And I think that that's part of it. She doesn't forget things easily. And also, I do think the way she processes things, like she could hear or read something once and then she remembers the whole, paragraph that she read. So I definitely think she has a uniqueness to her. Also, Jen has her Mercury is in Virgo. So just the way that she communicates online, I think, is just very detailed. So yeah, Jen's a very unique person. We're very different, which is funny. Like we kind of both doing spiritual stuff in a way, but like we're kind of opposites of each other.
And yet I see you two, when you did that podcast side by side, I'm like, they are sisters. I mean, they are sisters. You can see it. You know how sometimes you get siblings together and they look nothing alike?
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, they're sisters. You can just...
We have a similar, like our chin area is very similar. And we have the same mannerisms. So, and like certain words we say that it's very alike. But yeah, me and Jen, it's interesting. We've always been close and we've always been different. But there's this, we understand each other. We know we're different. We accept that. Like when I'm very emotional, she's like, okay, the Cancer moon is going through its wave right now. Like because she has a Libra moon, so she's not as emotional as me, but she knows when I'm in that time, let me just be upset.
Yeah.
Let me get my emotions out and then we can move on afterwards.
So I actually have a question, because you're obviously, and again, we talked about this before, you're very grounded and you're very practical and very in this world, right? But you're also so connected energetically and spiritually through the work that you do. I ask this because I was in a mall yesterday all afternoon and I was there with my partner. And so we're watching people move through the world. And it's really interesting for us anyway. We were watching and thinking, there are so many people that are so out of tune, I guess, or so out of touch with the universe and all of that. They're very much in this 3D world. There is nothing else. And for lack of a better term, they're in the matrix, right? There is nothing else higher. They're believing everything they see on TV. They're eating whatever food is available because it doesn't matter if it's fast food or if it's healthy. They don't care if it's organic or not. And even the way they move, you can see their bodies are kind of locking up because there isn't any work being done. Do you pick up on all of that as you're moving through the world? And I don't mean this in a judgmental way. It's just an observation as we move through the world, whether it be airports, malls, or just walking down the street. Do you pick up on that and are able to sort of sense who's, I guess, more connected?
I think I can definitely feel where someone's at certain times. So, like, I can tell if someone's very open to receiving, if someone's closed off, if someone's a grounded person, if they're someone who's very like flowery and manifesty. I can instantly, in any situation, pick that up on somebody. But I think what I've learned was I used to be who they are. I was closed off to everything. I was just moving through the world. I didn't have a sense of knowing or a deep sense of spirituality prior. And I do think that people are all on their same path, like all on their own path. And sometimes we try to push people too early, right? So sometimes we'll say, well, I'm this way. Why can't they wake up a little, right? They're not ready yet. And that's fine. Because I know if someone would have tried to push energy work or Reiki on me prior to 2020, I would have been like, this is crazy. I don't want to do this. I would have argued with them because they were pushing something on me. So I pick up on things with people. I could definitely tell when people are projecting. That's probably the easiest one. Like sometimes they'll say something and I'm like, that's not even true at all, but okay, that's fine, But that's how I kind of view it. Is I think some people are on different paths and something may happen in their lives that change that, but we don't know when that time frame is going to be.
Like I said, it wasn't a criticism of any of these people. It was just an observation because I think it's been so long since I've been in a space like that. And it was just really interesting moving through and just observing the different states that people are in. And that's why I was curious about how you observe the world as you move through it.
Yeah, I use like headphones a lot. So like I work in Manhattan, so if I take the bus, I have to wear my headphones because the amount of people on the bus is almost like too intense for me. So that is like a coping mechanism I do is if I am around a lot of people and I'm by myself, I'm not talking to someone, I always have headphones on. The music's very loud. Even at work, sometimes I do that. Like if too many people are talking and I could just feel too much of the energy, then I put the headphones on and I focus on one song. So it is something that I have to like almost rein my brain in for the energies around me. And usually music is the thing that does that for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I mean, obviously that must be so important for you as well to be around that many people commuting in one of the busiest places in the world that you have to be able to clean out your own energy as well before you work on people. So, yeah. I know I have to ask one more question, and then I know we want to wrap up and ask our final 4 questions. But because your pillow is poking out over your shoulder,
my dog,
of your dog, tell us about your pet. And did you have him or her before you learned Reiki or after? And do you notice whether your pet is also, do you notice more about an animal's energy as well since you learned Reiki?
Yeah, so Karma's 8 years old. I got her as a puppy, so she was before all of this. Now, I had always been on the spiritual path, but when I got Karma, it was right after my divorce, and I was going through a very hard time emotionally. And the reason why I got Karma was because I needed emotional support. And that's exactly what she provides me every day. If I am upset, here she comes to hug me. If I cry, she licks my tears. Like she was put here to be my emotional support. So I did get her when about 8 years ago. Now Karma loves Reiki. She loves it. Like if I give her Reiki, she just lays there. She accepts it. She'll accept it from anybody who gives her Reiki because other people have done it on her before. So she's not scared about the Reiki. Some dogs are a little bit hesitant when you give Reiki, but not Karma. She wants it all. She accepts all the energy.
How does she respond when you're, so this will lead to my last question before we get to our last 4. So a lot of the work or all of the work that you do for the most part is online, correct?
Yeah.
So how do you feel online versus in person? Because I've been looking at doing a QHHT session, but the fact that it's online is what has been my block. I've still got the calendar open. Like I know I'm going to book, but I'm just, that for me is a bit of a block. So I'm curious how you find it doing it online. But does Karma come around whenever you are working and kind of stick close by, or doesn't care?
She does. She comes by and she'll lay here, but she'll fall asleep usually. So she knows the energy is here, and then she usually gets more excited for about 15 minutes and then she falls asleep afterwards. For me, I learned online, and afterwards I wanted to test it out with Reiki. Like, do I like doing it in person? So when I first started Reiki, I gave sessions to people in person, and I didn't really like it. Part of it is because I'm so sensitive energetically, there was no boundary between us. Being in the same room was a little too intense for me. And I feel like with online, it's very closed off. I open the session, we get on the Zoom. I'm here for you for anything you need for 1 hour. And now we're closing the energy out, and I'm doing the spiritual cleansing and the hygiene after. Me, because I'm a sensitive person, I personally like a little bit of that distance, which online Reiki is called distance Reiki. So I like that distance. But it depends on the person. That's why if someone says they want to learn Reiki, I always say, try an online session, also try an in-person session, because it's really going to vary by the person. I feel like in-person gives you a different ambience. More of the people may have incense going, they may have a sound bowl there for you. So you are going to experience that. My Reiki sessions online are more like Reiki with like a little bit of life coaching. So it's a little bit more active and less, massage type.
All right. Are we ready for our final questions?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we always do ask everyone the same 4 questions. So we are dying to hear what you have to say about these. And the first one is, what makes you laugh?
What makes me laugh? Karma makes me laugh. Dog videos, cat videos. When I'm online, any type of animal video, I love it. It's so cute to me.
Mm-hmm.
Completely agree. Who was your biggest spiritual influence?
Okay, this is going to be, interesting. I started with Gabby Bernstein. So Gabby Bernstein was very big for me in the beginning, and also Abraham Hicks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so what advice would you give to people about how to transcend fear?
I think if you look at energies, okay, when I started Reiki, I got scared of other people's energy. It was fearful of, can it get attached to me? Can it get connected to me? And my Reiki teacher at the time told me it's about duality. It's about the light and the dark. It's not about good and bad, right? We all have the light and that dark energy. So when you're feeling fear, think about the duality of the energy in your life at that time, or the duality of that person and their energy.
And what's the best piece of spiritual advice that you've ever been given?
Well, this goes back to one of Gabby Bernstein's books, that the universe has your back. That if you don't trust that the universe has your back, you can't move forward on your spiritual journey. You have to know that there's something larger than you that's supportive of you, that there's support all around you. If you don't have that, you're going to struggle on your journey.
I love all these answers. I love the one about transcending fear. I'm definitely going to think more about that and borrow it. I'll footnote you, of course.
And that question, I just want to say, when Anne and I were first coming up with the show, and we wanted to sort of end each episode out with the same question so that we get a sense of all of our guests in a similar way, even though everybody's coming from very different areas of life. It was at a time where we were coming out of, COVID era things, and the world was so fearful. But I think it's such an important question, because I think there's this constant state of fear that people exist in, even if it's not constant for that person. There's always something going on that's scaring us. And so to have all these different tips about how for each of us to navigate it, we pick what resonates and what will work for us. And I think that's so powerful.
Yeah.
So I would like to thank both of you for joining me this afternoon. And I always love doing this with you. I love that we have so many questions and we come from 2 different angles with all of this. And Jess, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to answer all of our questions and go as deep as you have. We are going to have all the links to your Instagram, website, TikTok, everything in the description below, so that anyone that's watching, if you're not already following, you should. The TikToks are amazing. I love them so much. And we look forward to having you on again at some time in the future.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
bye.
bye.
Thanks, ladies. Bye.